Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining me on this Saturday morning. So today, I want to talk about a question that was brought up by one of our subscribers here, and more or less he asked me what my views are pertaining to Donald Trump and Israel, and after we discuss that, I also want to address a topic that's been going on in the news recently pertaining to the Mueller report, as I brought up in my last topic, in my last discussion that I brought to you guys. So as far as Donald Trump and Israel, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I approve of what's going on with how deeply he's tied in with Netanyahu and how he has Kushner out there acting as a representative of the United States of America when in fact we elected Donald Trump, not Ivanka and Kushner. You have to realize that the Jews have had their hands in everything, and it's no coincidence that they've managed to weasel their way into the Donald Trump family, because you have to realize that Donald Trump himself is obviously going to be a target for any organization that realizes, hey, we can use Donald Trump for power. So obviously, how do you infiltrate an organization or a kingdom? Like Donald Trump has built a family empire, so let's look at it as a kingdom. How did you infiltrate and put your narrative in the ear of a kingdom that you didn't necessarily want to topple, but you wanted to take advantage of? You know what I'm saying? You wanted to leech off of like a parasite. What you would do is you would find a way of marrying one of yours into their family, in turn giving your voice direct access to the ear of whatever leader is running that country, organization, etc. And this is exactly what they did when they inserted Kushner into the situation and had his daughter convert to Judaism and marry this guy. Now, I don't know if Donald Trump is a willing or unwilling participant as far as what happened in the hijack of power. You have to realize, even though Donald Trump sits at the tippity top and is the most powerful man in the world, even a man in that position cannot rely on himself to make every decision. And if you've surrounded yourself with people that you think you can trust because they're part of your family, and for all you know, they've never deceived you, at least not that you know of, why would you ever think they were going to? And of course, you'd rather appoint Kushner, who you know that you can hold accountable, at least in your eyes, over one of these neocons or one of these fucking Democrats or socialists. Why would you have them negotiate on your behalf instead of Kushner, who you have taught your principles and your business practices to? He understands what page you're on. He understands how you would react in the situation because you've taught him, mentored him, and spent that much time with him. However, this gets exactly back to the crypto Jews I was talking about in several episodes prior. What the Jews and the Ashkenazis are famous and infamous for all at the same time is inserting themselves in every single organization and working their way up to the top. Now, Kushner's not necessarily a crypto Jew because he's openly Jewish. Obviously, Ivanka converted to Judaism, right? So what happens here is, because Kushner himself came from a wealthy family, there is no doubt in my mind that he was bred exactly for this purpose. Now, it might not necessarily have been to go after Donald Trump, you know what I'm saying? But, like, there was always the aspiration of him marrying somebody with influence, and if he wouldn't have been the one to do it, it would have been vice versa, because, let's face it, the Kushner family has a lot of influence, too. But what these families have historically done over and over again is, instead of going to war and fighting a war that could potentially bankrupt both of them, they join forces, and then that's when the spy games get in. And that's exactly what we're witnessing right now with Donald Trump in Israel, as far as Netanyahu, who, by the way, is in some heat himself because he's in some trouble. He just got indicted from what I've heard. And on top of that, I don't understand how a president can be indicted in Israel and at the same time the man can still be the head of state. It's absolutely insane. Like, I guess that could still happen in the United States. Like, you know, you can see Donald Trump get impeached in the House, for example, but he would never get convicted in the Senate, and he would be able to, I actually don't know if he'd be able to maintain his role as president and chief executive while he was going through trial. Somebody comment down in the comments whether or not that's the case, if you don't mind. However, it comes back to what the question originally was. Do I think that Donald Trump and Israel are being nefarious on purpose? To a certain degree, yeah, that may very well be the case, man. If you look at what Donald Trump's done as far as the moving the embassy to Jerusalem, and the way that he's backed Israeli initiatives and the fucking technology deals, this is what really pisses me off, right? Is anything that involves internet proprietary systems is developed directly in Israel. Those are the guys to do it. The technology is not developed here. And what Donald Trump continually does over and over and over again, instead of having that manufacturing take place in the United States and us develop that kind of technology, he constantly gives government contracts to Israel over America, okay? So what happened to the America First narrative? You know what I'm saying? The initiative. Like, it's the easiest mandate in the world to do, and he missed a huge opportunity, because all Donald Trump would have had to have done is take the isolationist approach that we had pre-World War I, pre-World War II, and not get involved in the rest of the world's business and affairs. Withdraw the troops everywhere, okay? And he had the mandate. He had the mandate from the people. That's what he got elected to do, America first. However, he's putting a lot of Israel's narrative and initiative before the United States itself. There is no reason in hell a president that wants to reinforce our economy and constantly brags about jobs being created should be backing Israeli, government-funded organizations, groups, corporations, or whatever. We shouldn't be giving them contracts for our internet infrastructure, because in the end, you know what we're doing is by allowing them to develop this technology and then in turn subcontract out all of that information to China, is not only are we giving Israel a backdoor to all our equipment, we're giving China a backdoor as well. And a lot of people like to think that China's the big threat. Well, you have to look in the opposite direction, because China's getting this technology directly from Israel, and we're giving it to Israel through government contracts. Why the hell are we letting this happen? And there's no way in hell that it's happening without Donald Trump knowing about it, okay? So where does this come into line? So when you ask me what's going on with Donald Trump and Israel, it's a very, very, very complicated fucking question. And honestly, I'm not standing on the side of the fence where the grass is green and there's no cow shit, okay? I'm not happy with the situation. However, what would we have had if we had Hillary Clinton in office, and what would be going on right now if she did get elected? It's where I'm going to leave it, because I think that right there answers the question in and of itself. Now, the next thing that we're going to address is how the media has been ramping up as far as what I told you guys about the precedent being set. So when I told you guys the precedent for convicting people on process crimes was set by convicting General Flynn and, Manafort, etc., it opens up the door for every Democrat player that was involved in this fake dossier that was produced by the Hillary Clinton campaign and then peddled by John McCain's office and then handed over to the FBI and then brought in front of the FISA courts without being told that Hillary Clinton paid for it. And in fact, the publisher and the writer of this dossier himself did not stand by the information. Right? They didn't tell the FISA court this, which means there's no reason for the FISA warrant to be issued on Carter Page, which means Donald Trump's surveillance to begin with was completely fucking fraudulent. In fact, Lisa Page came out and said it was nothing more than a firewall developed long before Donald Trump was ever elected, and in fact, it was a set-up process that everybody in the government knew about except Obama, apparently. Basically, they're trying to cover Obama's ass. But what I'm getting at is the media is verifying what I have said, that if you are going to convict these people that have already been convicted and sentenced, Manafort, 42 months, process crimes, You open the door for anybody that took part in this treasonous action of this dossier and FISA warrant to be convicted under the same statutes. And not only is the media backing me up, Donald Trump himself went on Hannity and more or less said he promises that he is going to get to the bottom of everything that took place, and he will not allow it to happen again to any other president, because the precedent would be way too catastrophic to our due process. So what I'm telling you right now is you are going to see people going to jail, you are going to see perp walks, and you're going to see absolute chaos before the 2020 election. Now what's also wicked awesome is that Nunes at the same exact time is coming in and he's giving the DOJ a document that has over 50 people's names on it that are directly tied to the dossier, that are linked to criminal actions, criminal activities, and Nunes is basically giving it to the DOJ and the Attorney General and telling them, look, these are the crimes, this is the evidence, these are the people, you need to address it, you need to go after them, and you need to take the correct course of action. What does that mean, my friends? Now, coincidentally, there's been a lot of people out there that have been talking about perp walks since the beginning of Donald Trump's candidacy and actual presidency. And they all want to say all of a sudden, you know, Q is 100% unequivocal, blah, blah, blah. Well, you know what? The QAnon movement doesn't really matter at this point because we're seeing everything in action. Now, the question I have to ask is, what is going on with all these sealed indictments that people have been talking about forever? And are we going to see a crack in that veneer so we can actually see what the fuck is going on? Because there is no way to doubt and argue that there is way more sealed indictments than there should be according to historical numbers, okay? So there's definitely something going on behind the scenes. Now, you also have to realize Lindsey Graham has said that he is going to launch an investigation into everything that took place on the opposite side of the fence when it comes to this collusion and obstruction that they're trying to get Trump on, after both the Attorney General and Robert Mueller both came out and verified that there's no way he colluded, nor is there any way in hell that there was obstruction. Well, Mueller never said anything about obstruction. He said he was going to leave that up to the Attorney General, and the Attorney General quickly came out and said there's no obstruction because there was never any reason to launch this investigation to begin with. But what people don't realize is, like I've said a million times, there's a simultaneous investigation that's going on in the background pertaining to the Hillary Clinton investigation and those emails. And what we're going to see is, now that the Mueller report is over, Donald Trump is going to drop the FISA warrant. He's going to drop the FISA papers that he said he was going to declassify forever ago, because now there's no conflict of interest. There is no obstruction. Now, there's a leak that came out of the DOJ saying that Robert Mueller held on to this report for 9 months so he could win the House election for the Democrats, which inevitably he did. But if you look at when Donald Trump was talking about releasing the FISA report to the public, it was right around that time. So what did Donald Trump know that we didn't? Donald Trump knew that Robert Mueller was done with his report. However, Robert Mueller hadn't made up the decision of holding on to it until after the midterms. So Donald Trump may have preemptively jumped the gun and said, I'm going to come out and drop the FISA report, because he thought Robert Mueller's report was coming out shortly before he was going to drop his information. However, that's not how things worked out. But if you look at the way the stage has been set right now, Donald Trump will not lose anything by declassifying both the FISA report, but I think he should also declassify all of the other information pertaining to the dossier, who paid for it, etc. Now, this would be a very smart time to do it if you consider the Robert Mueller report is going to be coming out redacted pretty soon. So if you drop the Mueller report, and then shortly after or at the same time, you also drop the FISA information along with the dossier information and how it was bought and paid for, you open up the door to launch a whole new investigation into Hillary Clinton, regardless of whether or not she decides to run for president. Now, the thing is, because the media cycle has been so crazy, there's not a lot of people that are even aware that Hillary Clinton's running for president yet, okay? And I know I've said in prior episodes he may very well not be able to prosecute her until after 2020. I don't think that that's going to happen, however. If you look at the way things are ramping up and the way things are moving and the way people are starting to posture, everybody's bracing for the mother of all bombs. Now, if Donald Trump was smart, he would move on Hillary Clinton before the elections start to ramp up and she can get out on a public platform and start voicing the fact that she's actually running. Because once she starts getting out there in the public and talking about running openly, it's going to be very hard to move on her because people are going to say you're doing it for political reasons. So you either jump the gun or you wait until after 2020. However, if you can prove for a fact that there's direct ties straight back up to Obama, which is definitely going to happen. If you look at the fact that there was a tarmac meeting, you got to look at the fact that Brennan knew about everything that was going on, Comey knew about everything that was going on, Lynch knew about everything that was going on, Hillary Clinton knew about everything that was going on, the Gang of Eight knew about everything that was going on, but you're telling me that Obama did not. Now, if Obama, in fact, knew what was going on, you're looking at an act of sedition and treason by a sitting president of the United States of America. It wouldn't be the first time that it's happened in history. JFK, fucking Hamilton, fucking Reagan, a bunch of presidents have used government organizations, the IRS, the FBI, etc., to launch campaigns against their political rivals over and over again. The difference is it's never been done to this degree and with this much success as of late. I mean, until now, there was a lot of success in what these people have done, even though they may not have succeeded in actually pulling it off, because what they've managed to do is subvert the political narrative within the United States for the last 3 years. And on top of that, they've divided this country more so than it's been since the Civil Rights Movement. Now, people like to think that our country today is fucking crazy. You got people fighting on the streets of Seattle, etc., etc. It's bullshit. I lived in Detroit. I want you to go talk to some of the people that lived through the riots of Detroit, some of the people that lived through the riots in Alabama back in the day, some of the people that fucking lived through the Rodney King riots, all that bullshit, okay? Our country has seen trials and tribulations. We have witnessed literal race riots in the streets of America where the National Guard had to be called in to quell the riot. Don't tell me we haven't dealt with stuff like this before, my friends. We have. The difference is we were more equipped to deal with it back then because we implemented less brainwashing. There was less social media. We didn't have as much empathy. Our parents raised us better. There was more of a sense of community, etc., etc. The issue is we've devolved socially to a point where we're not even willing to fight for what we believe in, and that just bothers me. So what we're seeing right now is a faction of people who have actually decided, hey, I'm going to stand up and actually fight for something, and what they've done is endured the most vicious of attacks that you can imagine over the last 2 years, and have come to terms with the fact that, hey, we actually won, and now it's time for us to go on the offensive. And that's exactly what you're about to witness. Plain and simple. So I hope this gives you guys something to think about over the weekend. I'm definitely going to get you guys more of an esoteric video coming out here in the near future. It won't be too long. Give me 2 days tops. I've written down a bunch of material and I've been doing a bunch of studying into this next topic, but I'm going to leave that one hanging as a mystery for you. Thank you for joining me. I hope this gave you something to entertain yourselves, and I'll see you soon.